grandparenting. I know for a fact that you are a grandparent.
Oh, yes.
I am not yet.
Okay.
But I am praying that it will be soon before the Lord calls me to rest. Yeah, you know, some of us delayed having children.
Okay.
We are having our firstborns. We were already in our 30s.
Worse still, if you have sons, it will take you a while.
My firstborn is a daughter.
Oh, you are on the right path.
Amen.
Yes.
But my second one is a boy. So I'm looking onto my daughter.
Okay.
Yeah. But we are discussing grandparenting. Let's try and distinguish between parenting generally and grandparenting.
Well, dear viewers, admittedly, grandparenting is really an exciting experience. I have been on the other side as a parent, and now I'm grandparenting. There are big differences. The way you treat your grandchildren, it's so appealing, so attractive. There is this mystic attachment that you are able to hold in your hands. Children of your children. Now, parenting your own children, this is your own son, this is your only daughter. Yes, you have that joy. But when you come to grandparenting, you come to another phase of life. It is not as usual the way you deal with your daughter, you are trying to be apologetic. I mean, your daughter or your son, there are certain limits that you exhibit. But grandparenting, it's so exciting that your grandson, your granddaughter will be all over you. You are tolerant, you are kind. So basically, grandchildren are children born from your own children. That's the difference. These are children from your children.
Okay. So you don't have a direct hand in them, but they still, I can tell from your smile, they still make your world a better place to be.
Wow.
Because, because they add a certain spice, variety, you did mention. It's
really another paradigm. It's like you are in this part of the world. They are so good. You just want to hold them in your hands. You want to run. The grandchildren can also dictate you, Grandpa, let's do this, let's do this. Let's play football.
Doing that to somebody that is already tired.
Yeah.
They can't do that, but they don't mind anyway.
Imagine I knocked off very late.
Yeah.
I found my grandson awake.
Yeah.
And he calls me, Papa, come, let's play football in the sitting room. I tried to resist. Yes, 22 hours. He comes over and pulls me by my right hand, standing there. He starts kicking the ball to me. I kick back. And it was so exciting. Kick the ball, and it just went on. And that's how it is.
That's how it is.
And we're still, here is the mother or the father who has provoked their child, your grandchild. Then the child said, no, you are troubling me. I'm running to
It's an exit door.
Yes. And actually, there are times when these grandchildren can refuse to go to sleep to their room. They want to sleep with the grandpa, with the grandmother. They want to.
There's peace there.
There is peace there. There's tolerance.
Is it guaranteed that there is peace really at the grandparents' place?
Well, depending on the grandparents themselves.
Okay.
But I can tell you there are two sides of a coin when it comes to parenting. If the children are coming from your daughter, the bonding is more. You know, they say the real father of a child is known by the mother. Now, if you are a grandfather and those children are from your son, sometimes maybe of question marks, especially especially if there are doubts from the two of them about their parentage of this child. Then even the grandfather's attitude to that child that was questionable to have come from their son will be different. But when a child is from your daughter, there is no doubt.
You know that regardless of who the father is,
yes,
this is my
grandchild. Yes.
Okay, but then I just want to ask this one quick question.
Yes.
Is it true, you are a grandparent, is it true that if you want to spoil your child, then let them frequent their grandparents' place?
It is yes and no. Yes. People say children get spoiled when they are with grandparents.
Right.
It is because grandparents are tolerant. They take these as grandchildren. When these grandchildren make a mistake, they overlook. They laugh around. Grandpa, grandma, and so forth. So there is that latitude. Yeah. But when the child is with the real parents want to make sure no is no, yes is no.
No nonsense.
They use commands. But also coupled with wisdom from grandparents, there is a way that grandchildren can be molded very well. But of course grandparents differ. Some don't know God, some are drunkards, some they are brutals, depending on their temperaments. But all in all, the answer is yes, no. Okay. Of course, people feel when children go to their grandparents, the grandchildren have easy way. They go everywhere, they do everything, they eat what they want. And of course, grandchildren have also said to their parents, I'm leaving this house. I want to go to grandpa, grandma, because there she does not beat us. We eat what we want. We can sleep on their bed. We can run around. But here you are fond of saying you are making noise, you are deadening this place and so forth. But grandpa, grandma allows us to have heyday.
So what do you make of the accusation then that grandparents are the ones that spoil the children?
Well, it cannot be an absolute statement, a sweeping statement. In some cases, yes. In some cases, no. Depending on the grandparents and their morals. Sometimes grandparents can assist their own children do parenting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Parenting really is a responsibility that God has placed on on every parent and all that. Do we have biblical support when we talk about grandparenting?
Oh yes. When we look in the Holy Word, and that is the book of Proverbs chapter 17, and reading on verse 6, the Bible says, children's children are a crown to the aged, and parents are the pride of their children. These are words coming from wise man Solomon. He is simply saying children's children, in other words grandchildren, are a crown. Now when we talk about a crown, you are either a king, you have a crown, or you are a beauty pageant, you have a crown, or you are an athlete, and you are given this crown because you have attained victory. So in other words, when they are grandchildren, it's like you are crowned. You are considered among the elderly, among the old and wise. Now, this in turn brings about joy, pride, not negative pride, just that excitement that you have reached this age, you have grandchildren, you have brought children on earth, and then after bringing children on earth, also those children bring what? Other children. So when you look back, you see your footprints, you see your image, you see
your generation.
Yes, your generation, yeah. So that is the joy of every parent, to have grandchildren.
All right. Let's zero in, really. That was probably just our preamble to the discussion of grandparenting. But then I want to believe that there are certain things that we need to pay of grandparenting, subjecting our children to their grandparents and all that. I want to believe that it's not really, in as much as it's a joyful thing, sometimes we could just be punishing these older people because they needed to
have rest.
Say, for example, at 22 hours, you are still energetic, but this young person will not even understand that grandpa is
tired.
He's been working all day long. I want to get into your shoes and realize that you are heading a conference that has how many congregations?
We are
districts.
Districts, we have 23.
23 districts. That's quite a lot. And from there you have over how many congregations?
We have over 600 congregations.
600 congregations. Yeah. That's quite a lot. And when you sit to plan for the affairs of your conference, you really are looking at what you will do for the over 600 congregations. I don't know what's the membership in terms of baptized people.
Wow, we are running towards 70,000.
Now that's right.
Those are baptized minus adherents.
Yeah. So that's quite a lot. And so your burden is for that number.
Oh yeah.
And then you reach home. This one has to travel. Let's play soccer at 22 hours. What are some of the tips that we can get? Doses.
Yeah, some of the doses that we need to look at when you are doing grandparenting is that as you take your children to the grandparents, consider their age. You know,
which age? Grandparents or the children?
The age of the children. Okay. And also the age of the grandparents.
Right.
Here you have your grandparents who are 90 years of age. You want to burden them with little children. They will be overwhelmed. Of course they'll be excited for a moment, but that is a lot of work. Look at the age for the grandparents, and also look at the age of your children that you are taking there to the village or in town. Probably the kids are too small. Maybe it's less than 1 year, 6 months. You want to leave the kids there with a grandma, and you want to go for kitchen party, you want to go for weddings, you want to go for work, or you want to go back to school. You are just using your grandparents as a dumping ground. That is not the best. The best is as you take your children to the grandparents, look at the age of the grandparents. Are they able to cope with these little angels around them? And look also at the children. This age, can I leave these children for 1 week? Is 1 week not too much for the grandparents? Or is it just a weekend? Or will I be with my children as I visit their grandchildren? So it's better to look at age, because age will determine how long can they stay, and then do they need extra help? Or probably you want to go to college. There are some young ladies, they are not married, they get pregnant, a child comes, within 1 year, 6 months, they want to leave the children with grandparents and start running around to bring another what? Grandchild.
I hear you, and I'm very excited to hear you bring in that aspect, and I heard you correctly. If I heard you correctly, you are saying grandparents are not supposed to be a dumping ground, not supposed to be a dumping site.
Yes.
But now you brought in the aspect of grandchildren will always be grandchildren.
Yes.
And you rightly said one coming from your daughter is a guaranteed grandchild. You have no questions about it.
Yeah.
But with that, we have seen that a number of the grandparents around here are overburdened by their own daughters, who now realize that there is, would say, chaopen. Because so we can always
take children.
I mean, it doesn't matter who the fathers are, but I'll always be bringing children. And it becomes into what you're now referring to as a dumping site. Don't you think now it's parents that are making both, I shouldn't accuse the grandchildren, but instead of making the grandchildren stupid, they are making their children, their daughters, become stupid, because they are going to be the ones who are doing what? Bringing children.
Yeah. In fact, as a matter of fact, parenting is not a transferable task.
Right.
Parenting is an obligation that revolves on the shoulders of father and mother. So grandparents are just there to support you. They should not take the whole responsibility that we have to look after our grandchildren, especially when the parents are still alive. You as a parent, you have a moral obligation to bring up children in the manner that they should grow. You don't want to blame anybody over the conduct of your children. So first and foremost, the parental duties are in your hands as parents. Grandparents are there to add value,
to
add variety, yes, to your task. But to use grandparents, children come, you don't even plan for them, you dump them in the village, or you take them to Olympia with the grandparents. They may also have certain duties. They are busy also running their farms, running their businesses. So you have to take responsibility. However, since we are talking about grandparenting, there is another extreme part nowadays that parents are not keen to take their children to see their grandparents.
All right, parents are not keen to take their children to see their grandparents. We'll begin on that one. Let's quickly take a break. On the other side, we zero in on a parent that is not even interested to see their children going to visit their grandparents. This is Love Therapy. We'll be right back.
Looking for information on marriage or tips on how to enjoy your marriage? Then look no further. ZAP has exactly what you need. We have a book that is just right for you.
The book, Enjoy Your Marriage, is written with an African touch to give you what is expected of an African marriage. You know, marriage can only be enjoyed according to a given environment. So the book Enjoy Your Marriage covers a lot of topics that meet the Zambian consumer, that meets the African marriage. It talks about pillars in marriage. What is important to do as you choose your marriage partner. In this book, you are going to discover the common challenges that a couple goes through. It will help you to resolve marriage conflicts in a smart way. The same book gives you some concepts, some practical steps that you need to undertake in order to resolve marriage conflicts in a smart way. In this book, you are going to discover how to manage your life in the bedroom as a couple.
So come through to our offices for our limited copies of Enjoy Your Marriage for you and your loved ones at only 150 kwacha each, or call 0978 447469 to get your copy. Hurry while stock lasts.
Thank you so much for still staying with us. We continue with the program as we continue looking at grandparenting. Now, you could just be wondering, why are we discussing grandparenting on Love Therapy? You know that in every relationship, and what is exciting is that there is no guarantee that your home is not okay. I mean, it's shaking and you cannot have children. Dr. Chunga, I don't know if you agree with me. There are a number of homes that are not at peace, and yet children are coming in quick succession. Do you agree?
Yes, it's possible.
It's possible.
Yes.
Well, I've seen it happen.
Yes.
So even when your home is shaking, it is very possible that you will still be able to have children. I know one person who, at the point of leaving the husband, you were discussing about the divorce indicators. And then at the moment she's reaching at her place, she realizes that I'm pregnant.
Oh yeah.
Why should I continue staying here? Let me go back to my husband's place. And life continued. So you realize that when you thought you had more problems, there is a blessing that is coming in the house.
Oh,
but it helped. It works for other families because the coming of a baby just creates that bond between husband and the wife, and eventually they are living a happy home.
And even special names are given to such children. But sometimes homes are built based on children.
Right.
You look at your children, how dependent they are on you, and then you want to move out of that home. You think twice. Say, well, I think let us resolve our differences between the two of us so that children's welfare is not disturbed.
Resolving is a better solution, but we have seen a situation where they have not resolved their issues, but they are saying, let's stick together for the sake of children.
Oh yeah. They have stayed together.
Which is unfortunate.
Which is unfortunate. Probably in the process, time fixes issues.
Right.
People can change their minds.
Yeah, in the fullness of time.
Yeah.
Love Therapy brought to you with the compliments of the Zambia Adventist Publishing House. And today we are discussing parenting on Love Therapy. My guest is Dr. Daniel Chunga, as always. Just before we went on a break, we were about to talk about parents who neglect the need to take their children to their grandparents.
Okay.
I don't know what could be the reason, but you were.
Oh yeah, I was just about to say that there are some parents nowadays who are not so keen to take their children to their grandchildren. Either there is a rumor that the grandparents practice witchcraft. And based on that, you'll find that parents are not too keen to take their children to the grandparents. Another reason you'll find that parents are not keen to take their children to their grandparents because of the conditions where they are. Maybe the house is not okay, it's right in a rural area or in a shanty compound. Maybe sanitary situations are not okay. And there's just this tendency that parents want to stick with their children. These are our children. They will raise them up. No need to take them to grandpa.
The other issues, Doc, is that grandparents know quite a lot, for example. So because they know quite a lot, there are certain things that they would want to do to your children that you don't believe in. Because you are a modern parent, you are a Christian. If it is here in Zambia, you are in a Christian nation. And in the end, the grandparent looks at your child and says, the reason why the child is like this, it's because they didn't do A, B, C. And then they start administering these herbs.
Oh yeah.
And some parents don't like it.
Oh yeah. And actually there is a ritual. When a child is born, Some tribes believe in maturing the child.
Okay.
So, you as young couple, you don't know anything.
No idea.
But elderly people have the child taken to them so that they protect the child. And this is why,
Those are grandparents.
yes, when a child dies, a baby, when a baby dies and husband and wife had not met sexually, they simply do not hold a funeral because that child is considered not yet mature. Even when you bury that child who has died, you don't dig the grave too deep. They say if you dig the grave too deep, you are not going to have another child. Now, what they do is, they say, when a child is born, that's why when a child is born, only women who have reached menopause are supposed to be able to hold children, according to tradition. Not those who are sexually active. No, they have a way of transmitting diseases. The child is going to be weak. And maybe a man or woman holding the baby has come from sexual issues, then it will weaken the child. That is the belief out there. So what they do, grandparents would meet and then do certain rituals which are going to make...
Doc, you are not being open.
Yes, I'm going to be open now.
Okay.
Which are going to make the child what? Strong.
Right.
In some tribes, I want to mention the tribe, when grandfather, grandmother meet sexually, they will get the semen, put in the joints of the baby as a way of strengthening the child. In some other tribes in Zambia, when a child is born and the parents are scared that their child is going to die, because there is a belief that when a child comes and husband and wife meet sexually, and if a man ejaculates inside, then that child is likely to die. So in some cultures, they would even hire a man who has a reputation of having strong children. So what they will do, hire this man, sleep with your wife, and does not do the needful, and make sure the child is protected. Others use charms and so forth. Queer things, of course. But the bottom line is, elder people did not want children to have these transmitted diseases. They wanted the baby to be protected.
Right. And so the grandparents, maybe not your class.
Yes.
but
the grandparents
the real grandparents
will make sure that they stick to those rituals.
And so would you blame the modern couples if they don't take their children to their grandparents?
In fact, to their shock, these modern children, they may not even know what has happened to their child, because parents are grandparents are very wise. They can do other things and so forth. Of course, there is a positive side of grandparenting. Here is a child is crying. Say, no. When you go to the hospital, they would say, give the child gripe water or Ashton powder because of teething. But out there, they say, no, let's get this herb, and the child is fine. They have this reservoir, this oasis of knowledge and wisdom. However, some parents just do not want to associate their children with grandparents. But that is a missing link in parenting. A child should know, these are my parents, these are my grandparents. And it's just good to have this kind of rapport between grandparents and the grandchildren.
You did mention the aspect of suspicions, rumors of witchcraft and all that. In most cases, we know that from my side, my children have grandparents. From my wife's side, our children have their grandparents. And in an event where your children frequent
one side, that is a problem. And that is not good. Because as grandchildren grow up, they only know one side. And there's this behavior in this world that when you are older, then you are associated with witchcraft. Yes, the devil is not dead, witchcraft is there. But God is more powerful than those things. I think let's not create a situation that you start accusing each other. Your grandparents practice witchcraft, my children can't go there, they will die. Or your other side of your grandparents, they are poor. There is no food that can be eaten by our children.
Or should you choose to send them, then you pack?
Oh yeah, it's another good tip. As you send your grandchildren to the grandparents, wherever, some are within your reach and so forth. But if it's far and the grandparents do not have means to care for those children, it's a good idea that you support your parents to take care of your own children.
Isn't that a missing link, really, Doc? Because if my parents do not have the means, and I would have to take extra food when my children are going to visit my parents, then it means I haven't done my homework. Because they should always be supply of food at my parents' place, with or without my children present.
Well, there are many conditions that can make people poor. Maybe they're out of employment, and not that all grandparents are poor. Some grandparents are well-to-do, maybe better than maybe better than the parents themselves. And so the grandchildren will find a safe haven when they are basically at the grandparents' home. They are going to eat everything. They are going to choose what to eat. No, grandpa, I want ice cream, I want this, and so forth. So, when you are taking your children to the grandparents, maybe you want to take 7 of them. No, come, let's go. Then you are causing a strain on their budget and on their food. But depending on the level and class of grandparents, some is not even a bother. Some, you may definitely need to buy some jiggies, which these children want, so that they won't be completely off. Let them go to grandparents, but supplement. Because you know your children, and you know what they like, and you don't want to be a mess there. Another way is, depending on their age again, you can say, no, I want my children to know about life. When they go to their grandparents, they should see a difference.
Sure.
That's how life should be.
1 minute you have jiggies, the other minute you don't.
Yes, you cry
when you were crying for biscuits at grandma's place, you are going to be treated to magwas.
Yes. So depending on where the grandparents live, you can do the needful, and depending on the age of grandparents, you may need to know how many children should I send. Am I sending a battalion, or just 1 or 2 to help them do 1 or 2 chores?
Right. You did mention, considering the number of children, if you are to send the children, then there must be accompaniment and all that. There is also another aspect that really determines how long your children have to stay. How is it important for me as a parent and my wife to discuss the length of their stay? I know for a fact that in the time that we were growing, every school holiday, it was a must that we have to be at our grandparents' place, and we have to stay that whole month with our grandparents. The benefits are there that personally I can account for, that I got having stayed with my grandmother, and my grandfather eventually, because he had to disappear and resurfaced later in his very old age, towards the evening of his life. But that's reality of life. When we reached there, when we thought life was where we are coming from, here you have to enjoy life in the field, for example. You go cultivating the field. The next time it's harvest time, you're also there harvesting and all that. I think it was enjoyable to learn some of these things which were not happening at home. But then, does the number of days that we stay at our grandparents' place really matter?
Oh yes, it matters. And you know, those days, people wanted to be in town where those people were young and were able to work. The village was meant for people who are not working. But nowadays, you find people flocking to the urban because there are many social amenities around them. They are able to do business and so forth. But once upon a time, we had a situation whereby those who are not working are in the village. Maybe grandparents are in the village. So if you are going to take your children to the village or to another town, you have to know how long are they going to stay there. If they are going to stay there longer than necessary, look at the ability of the grandparents. Are they able to manage them? Or do I need to supplement in terms of food and so forth so that I don't cause an unnecessary burden on them? So you take note of how long are my grandchildren going to stay there? You are able to, it will help you to say, okay, maybe it's just 2 days or few hours. You don't need supplement. Let them enjoy what grandpa, grandma is able to afford.
All right. You did mention, Doc, that parenting or parental duties cannot be transferred to another person. We have seen a situation where if this woman is breastfeeding and then she wants to wean off the child, the best option is to dump the baby
Grandparents.
at grandma's place.
Yeah.
The other aspect is because this woman is expecting another child, and then they feel the presence of this baby when they are expecting is not needed. Again, grandma
Should take responsibility.
is the person that should take responsibility. What do you have to say on this?
Well, it is true that some mothers, when they want to wean their child, what comes to their mind is to take that weaned child to the grandma, so that grandma should be able to help the child. Now, there are also children that are born probably 6 months after delivering this child. Another pregnancy comes.
We call them unplanned.
Unplanned child. Well, but you must know the consequences of what you are doing.
No, we're just doing for the sake of
Pleasure
and enjoyment, and then unfortunately,
yeah, children come that way. Yeah, children come that way. But you must know that these children come in different ways.
Right.
Some are plentiful.
Yeah.
Some they didn't even plan to have a child, but it comes.
God planned for them.
Yes. Now, when that happens, especially to the young couples, it must be clear that when a mother gives birth, maybe after 6 weeks or so, husband and wife can resume conjugal rights. And as long as the mother is breastfeeding consistently, she is not having her period, that mother may not get pregnant. There are such women. There are also some women, they give birth, they are having conjugal rights, and the baby is breastfeeding consistently, they do not have the period, they get pregnant. Now, when such a pregnancy takes place, most mothers, what will come to their mind, let this child go to the grandparents. Even when the grandmother is old or she is sickly, she cannot cope with those situations. Grandmother. Not only that, because I want to go to college, because the child makes noise, I won't sleep, I have to go for work, You win your child. Where do you think of taking the child? Grandma. Now that's where we are saying grandparenting is not a dumping ground. You too need to learn what it takes to have a child. Within 6 months, another child comes, or 9 months. You must know what it takes so that you'll be a good advisor to other would-be parents. However, when you win a child, you know that the windy child will require special food.
That's true.
And that windy child will be crying endless, waking up at midnight. Where is mommy? I want to breastfeed. All those things come into play. So we are saying, depending on the age of the grandmother, you must be considerate to say, will I bother my mother more by giving her an extra burden? Others, it's a welcome move. But those are areas of consideration that you must always think about. When you're expecting, you want to give a burden to someone. Yeah.
And that someone can only be grandma and grandpa. In the end, when your child is spoiled, you want to accuse your grandma, their grandparents. That
in fact, along with that, you may have sickly children. As a parent, because you are burdened, maybe that child has brain pulse or mental or handicapped, or the child is basically sickly, and you want to run away from your own responsibilities and you want to dump that child with grandparents. I think we should make life easier for grandparenting.
For the old folks.
They also want to enjoy life. Take responsibility as a parent, but let there be rapport. Take your children to the grandparents. Let them interact. It's a good thing to interact.
Taking is one thing, Doc.
Yes.
And there is obviously one thing that is not just taking, it is taking for good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Then you disappear outside the coverage.
Let's take a break. We would love to continue from that note as we get into the last part of our program. This is Love Therapy, brought to you compliments of the Zambia Adventist Publishing House, and the book under promotion in this phase is the book authored and published by the Zambia Adventist Publishing House, which was authored by Dr. Daniel CHUUNGA, who happens to be my guest on this program. The book is Enjoying Marriage. Let's just get to see what this book is all about and make ourselves an order so that Dr. CHUUNGA will append his signature in your book. We'll be right back.
Looking for information on marriage or tips on how to enjoy your marriage? Then look no further. ZAP has exactly what you need. We have a book that is just right for you.
The book, Enjoy Your Marriage, is written with an African touch to give you what is expected of an African marriage. You know, marriage can only be enjoyed according to a given environment. So the book Enjoy Your Marriage covers a lot of topics that meet the Zambian consumer, that meets the African marriage. It talks about pillars in marriage. What is important to do as you choose your marriage partner. In this book, you are going to discover the common challenges that a couple goes through. It will help you to resolve marriage conflicts in a smart way. The same book gives you some concepts, some practical steps that you need to undertake in order to resolve marriage conflicts in a smart way. In this book, you are going to discover how to manage your life in the bedroom as a couple.
So come through to our offices for our limited copies of Enjoy Your Marriage for you and your loved ones at only 150 kwacha each, or call 0978 447469 to get your copy. Hurry while stock lasts.
Thank you so much for still staying with us. And now in the last part of our program, today we are discussing parenting. Quite a lot of issues have been brought into this discussion, positives as well as negatives that we must avoid. And the doses that Dr. Chunga is giving us are quite amazing. If you take time and look at them, you will realize that there are quite a number of things that we need to consider when we are sending our children to their grandparents. Dr. Chunga says we need to consider the age on both ends. What is the age of the children we are taking there? What is the age of their grandparents that we are taking our children to? This should balance in a way, because if you take a child that still needs to be changed diapers, the grandparent might not just be in the right position to change the diapers. I know that they are used to nappies, not diapers, and we have seen a situation where after the baby has wee-weed in their diaper, the grandparent will get the diaper and begin to wash it, not knowing that it's disposable. So we need to consider that. But it's also another caution to say grandparents' place is not a dumping ground, is not a dumping site. You need to ensure that there is quite a lot that has been considered, but also he just mentioned that we need to consider the number of children that we are taking. You don't take 7 children at their grandparents' place and without food. Times are hard, even in the villages, things can get even tougher. And then he also did highlight on the aspect of considering how long their children are going to stay at their grandparents' place. If that is considered, then you also consider their children's upkeep. And then when you are weaning children off, you want them to stop breastfeeding, the highly likelihood is that they have to be at their grandparents' place, or in an event that we have children that have been interfered by another child coming. By this I mean, while you still want to enjoy being with your child, another one is on its way. What do? Parents are the best places that we want to take to. But Dr. Chunga says parental duties are non-transferable. You cannot transfer your parental responsibilities. You were just zeroing in, Doc, on the aspect of children that are sickly.
Oh yes. When you have a sickly child, and probably that sickly child may need medical attention, don't take that burden to your grandparents. You are going to stress them. Handle it yourself.
Who don't even have transport.
Who may not even have transport, and maybe there's no medical facility nearby. But if they are within town and maybe grandparents are well-to-do, well, they may help you. But you must have due consideration by taking a sickly child away from your care as a way of relieving yourself of the stress surrounding the sickness of the child. Sometimes you have children who are not able to walk, who cannot talk, and so forth. I think also it goes along with the school-going children.
Okay.
You know that there are good facilities where you are. Why not take responsibility, take your children to that school? And if you know you are the father to those children, or even if you are not staying with the mother to your child, you still have an obligation to look after your children.
Sure.
So if grandpa has an advantage position where children can go to school, hallelujah.
Amen.
But if it's right in the village, there are no good schools, take responsibilities. Now, another dose when it comes to grandparenting is that morals should not be compromised by grandparents. You know, as grandparents, children are free to do whatever they want. They want to eat what they want to sleep when they want, and so forth. When you see certain misbehavior in your grandchildren, you should not lower the standards. You should supplement or complement the efforts of the parents to this child by upholding certain morals. Punished offenses must be punished, even if that's your child. You cannot be laughing when you know your grandchild is insulting. Correct that as a grandfather, as a grandmother. Yes, they have freedom from parental control. As long as they are in your care, you are assuming parental responsibilities. And as an adult, you definitely not condone certain misbehaviors. You want your grandchildren to be put on track. So you also correct when they are wrong. Don't just say, well, this is a grandchild, it's okay. When a grandchild is insulting, is urinating in a plate, you are just laughing. No, that should be corrected. Along with the parenting dosage is that communication is critical as you do grandparenting. You know, nowadays, there's this intermarriage. Zambia is strict. You have a Luvale husband and you have a Tonga wife. And also these parents, where they are coming from, the grandparents, some are Chewa, others are Tumbuka. So there is communication barrier. So normally parents agree. What tribe, what language is our child going to learn? Is it Tonga? Is it Luvale? Is it Tumbuka? Whether you are patrilineal side or matrilineal, you agree. And also, even if you agree, you may be living in a place where there is another tribe. So that in itself poses a challenge in grandparenting, because probably the children are only able to express themselves in English. Then you take them to grandma, to grandpa, who may not know English.
Only speaks Lozi.
Only speaks Lozi. The kid is saying, I want to wee-wee. I want to pee. And then the grandmother say, what do you want? We are dancing. Confusion. So, consider communication issues. Sure. But good thing about children and grandparents, they are able somehow as human beings, they are able to navigate and be able to communicate to each other. Okay. But communication can be a barrier when it comes to grandparenting as well.
Right, communication can be a barrier. The tribe aspect has been considered here as a way of getting to know what our children will adapt to so easily. And if you are following Dr. Chunga here, he's not trying to say you can only restrict marrying from within your tribe so that you don't lose your children, but there is always an agreement that can be made. How do we go about it? But of course, our children today are speaking more of English than any other local language, which is very, very unfortunate. But anyway, there is an aspect of communication there. Dr. Chunga, as we near the end of our discussion, I want you to describe a grandparent in a nutshell.
Well, grandparents are a reservoir of pride, wisdom. They are an oasis of peace and tranquility. When you have grandparents, you have a safe haven. Amen. So, grandparents are invested with long life. They have experience, all the vast experience in parenting. They are able to give free advice. They have seen their own children grow. They have seen how their own children behaved. And they are able to provide proper care even to your children. They have this vast wisdom. So grandparents are a joy of every grandchild. That is the apex of joy. After you have seen your grandchildren, even when you die, you can say, hallelujah, I have lived. No wonder the Bible is saying it's a blessing. However, in the same realm of grandparenting, let us not create a burden on the grandparents. They are not a dump site. They are there to probably supplement your parental responsibilities. So as you engage your parents to look after their grandchildren, be there for them, be considerate, and just be there. They are not there to fight with you, and feel free as parents to interact your children with grandparents. They give a lot of joy, and that is what makes a family. That's my take.
That's your tech talk. Give your parents a lot of joy. Obviously, we now can tell from this discussion that grandparents really are a blessing, because they have within them, in Dr. Chunga's language, an oasis of wisdom, vast experience, and obviously the core at the end of the day is that don't overburden them, because they are just getting weaker and weaker by the day. But there is need, according to Dr. Chunga, for us to also consider that our children get familiar with their grandparents, because obviously that wisdom can be transferred to them. It's not true that every child that has spent time with their grandparents ends up becoming something else. We have others that have been raised by their grandparents, and still you can see that they are indeed a marvel to watch. They are exceptional in what they are doing. Dr. Chunga, thank you so much for your time. Unless you have one last word that you want to say.
Well, may peace and grace of our Lord Jesus Christ be upon all grandparents out there. Enjoy fun and interact with your grandchildren so that they boost your immunity levels.
What about us future grandparents?
Be patient. Be patient, one day at a time.
One day at a time.
Certainly.
That's it. As long as you have children, chances are that you will live to see your grandchildren. If not, just believe that God would have actually allowed that to happen for a purpose. From all of us in the studio, is thank you so much for your time, and may God bless you even as you continue watching Hope Channel Zambia, television that changes lives. Bye for now.
Ujulu nyina mapenzi malwazi Ndayanda kende amwami oh julungo tuya munzi wa mami